Hey, what's going on, y'all? We got another episode of RRX Podcast. My name is Frank. Can I get my co-host to introduce herself?
Hey y'all, this is Nat.
Right. So, the topic that we're going to go over today, and I kind of thought about this topic based on a conversation I was having with my coworkers this past week in reference to, you have a lot of people, this day and age, as far as how they maneuver in life, certain things they do, certain things that they don't do, what they think is, necessary to implement in their life, what they believe, is no point in implementing because, of the aspect of going for certain things in their life that they believe they deserve when it comes down to particular standards that they actually set for themselves. And sometimes, those standards can be inflated or those standards, could potentially not be realistic or even, the standards, could probably be harming them, when it comes down to whatever they think in mind that they believe is a standard. Nevertheless, topic for today is going to be the two big consequences of life. The two big consequences of life. Where I'm pretty sure out there you're asking, okay, what are those two big consequences? How can you say, something is a consequence? Whatever. Y'all kiss my ass, the ones that are saying, how can you say, that bullshit? Here's my thing. So I was talking to my coworkers, and one of the things I was thinking throughout the course of the week is how, we as human beings, no matter, what race, creed, background you come from, what may have you, we as human beings often, pick the path of least resistance. We often pick the path of least resistance. And we often don't truly gauge, what we are actually doing in our lives that actually helps us reach particular goals, that those goals over a course of time, especially if we work on those goals, can be plentiful for the future and help us to be able to have, the best life possible, especially as far as longevity and as far as being on this earth and as far as, being able to build things with other human beings, no matter if it's family or, a significant other. But the first big consequence I told, my coworkers is that the first big consequence is dying sooner rather than later. Dying sooner rather than later. Okay? And then the second big consequence is dying alone. Dying alone. Now, for the first one, um, so based on how most human beings end up maneuvering in life, um, they make certain choices more so at a younger age and then become so ingrained in that routine of the choices that they have made that some of the choices that they made kind of push this sense of reinforcing a pattern that doesn't help them in the long run in reference to making sure that they're doing things that, doesn't bring them closer to death. Now, I know, maybe some people out there are like, well, why are you talking about death? Death is not, necessarily a good thing to talk about. I think it's a good thing to talk about, especially if you want to be within the scope of reality of what is actually going on, not only with you, but with also with other human beings in reference to the choices and decisions that they make. Where, I kind of put, this first, big consequence kind of in a couple of categories. Um, what are you doing when it comes down to your profession? Um, what are you actually doing? Do you actually, for your profession, have purpose in life? Oftentimes, I believe most human beings don't, when they don't necessarily have a purpose, they're doing things that inevitably puts more stress on them because they're just pretty much in autopilot on, doing things to only, be able to take care of themselves, but they don't honestly have a passion in what they're actually doing, you know? In addition to the fact that I'm not going to say that everybody has to have a passion, you know what I'm saying? Or I'm not even going to say everybody has to be ambitious, you know? Because, that argument with, people needing to be ambitious and all that other crap, often it's, just a projection of how others that are not of us tell us what we need to do in reference to what we should be doing in our lives, where most of those things are built on characteristics versus actually building character. You know, because often people tell us we should be doing things that inevitably, should be making us money, should be, pushing us, having a certain status, should be putting us in certain situations where we are able to, get better credentials to be able to be seen as, better in society. When in actuality, maybe you need those things, but not necessarily in the specific way that other human beings say that you should have them. You know what I'm saying? But it's kind of this thing where I think about profession. That's one of the things I think about. But then also another thing I think about is, in your life, what are you doing that inevitably, this kind of ties to profession, but what are you doing that inevitably increases your stress levels, or for that matter, increases your cortisol levels within you, where, cortisol is the stress, enzyme, within you that increases that, makes you feel the stress that you're actually going through, you know, like that feeling. And then the more your cortisol levels are raised, heavily, the more it puts, a taxing feeling on your body that can also contribute to you not being on this earth longer than, what you could be, you know, if you weren't putting yourself through too much stress. You know, that's kind of how I want to start off the conversation. What you think, that?
So I think, I think that stress can kill you anyways. I mean, like, from a literal standpoint. And I say that because
Yeah.
I experienced it through my family where my aunt was stressed. She was in a stressful situation
Hmm.
and she ended up dying. And the end result was that it was confirmed with my family that it was due to stress. There was nothing physically wrong with her. There was nothing mentally wrong with her. She was just stressing out all the time. So, I mean, that's just my take on the stress piece of it.
Hmm.
But when you talk about everything else, I think a lot of it kind of boils, well, some of it kind of boils down to the 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 decisions you make, right, and the choices you make.
Yep.
Um, I'm a firm believer of everything is a choice. I know some people don't believe that, but I believe wholeheartedly that you have a choice in everything you do. And then depending on what choice you choose or what option you choose, comes a consequence, right? Whether,
I agree
um,
with you. I agree with you on that. I do agree with
yeah,
you on that. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah. I mean, yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, that's what I think. And I have come in conversation with people who don't agree, and I get that too. But that's what I think, right? So when I mean when if we're talking about dying alone, and it's just a lot that kind of leads up to it. I mean, it really is. I think I don't know the scientific um background, or yeah, I'm not a scientist or a doctor, so I really don't want to speak on the scientific or the biological aspect of how stress is built. But I will say that depending on the situation that you put yourself in, that you put, because again, I think it's a choice. I think that you have to choose uh wisely, and that's, a lot comes with choosing wisely also. But I think that you should have some idea of what you think you're kind of getting yourself into before you actually step into that situation. Does that make sense?
I mean,
Um,
it does make sense. If we're talking about the scope of like relationships, like actual romantic or
well,
longevity
well,
based relationships, then I definitely understand. But then you also have a lot of human beings that just baseline level find no value in having a strong connection with other human beings. No matter if it's
right,
family, no matter if it's friends,
right,
no matter if it's someone you fucking. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter.
right.
Like you got like I give you an example.
but that's because, but that's also because that's a sign of selfishness also. If
I
you
agree.
find no value in other people, how are you supposed to build a healthy relationship or a healthy friendship? And it's funny because I was watching something yesterday. I'm sorry, I've been watching. I'm not going to say her show because she's, because I'm just not going to say her show. But I was watching her show, and no, you know what? I will say. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
was watching the Kendra G. I like
Oh, okay.
Kendra G, y'all. But anyway,
Okay.
it was someone on her show yesterday that said, Kendra went through her host of questions. And now this is a strictly relationship show for singles who are trying to go out and meet other single people,
Right, right.
right? But to bring it back to this point about value, one of the members on her show, when Kendra asked a question, she asked some question of, I forget what the question was, but the response was, I want to be used. And Kendra said, "Wait, go in more to that." Like,
Explain
like,
details.
what do you mean?
Yeah.
She said that she had been in a relationship with an older man, and she felt like he was a giving person, and she had a conversation with him where she told him, "Look, I don't want you to think I'm using you, so I don't want to ask for all these things." And he was giving things, but she didn't want to feel like she was using him or taking advantage
Mooching
of what
or,
he
being a
had to
bum.
offer.
You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Kind of.
Yes,
Yeah.
his response to her was, "You should want to be used." And the way she put it, if I have this right, is that in a the way he saw it is that in a relationship, he said he wants to be able to be he wants to be useful, right? So he wants his partner to be able to use him, not in a bad way, but he wants to be useful to that person,
Can
and
I?
vice versa.
I mean, I'm gonna
And
let you. I'm gonna let you finish, but I'm thinking about this in a
no,
particular way. But I don't want to lose my thought. But go ahead. Go ahead.
no, go ahead,
Okay.
because I'm
So
not.
here's my thing. Like, I think baseline level. I'll put it in this perspective. You have a lot of women that don't understand what a man is, and then you have a lot of men that don't understand what a woman is, and then that ends up creating confusion when it comes down to, the need to try to reinforce the opposite divine energy on the opposite gender. Okay.
So yeah, go ahead, go
I'm,
ahead.
I'm, let me just finish this point. And so, with that said, um, I believe you have a good amount of women this day and age that don't understand, the concept in which men need to be needed, you know, versus, the understanding of a man, needing to understand, a woman when it comes down to what type of support system she could be if she was within her divine feminine energy and was able to actually do that, you know? Like, it's kind of this back and forth thing of, just immediately saying that dynamic is archaic or old and, it's not happening now. When in actuality, it's just being dismissive in reference to you having men, saying that I don't mind being there for you because men have to create a value to a woman. Inevitably a woman ends up having inherent value, but then you have women who want to dismiss that inherent value to try to create their value when naturally that's always been a masculine trait. So you have a good amount of women that don't necessarily understand the value that you have is already within your essence, and then a man just bringing his value to you, you don't have to necessarily worry about certain things. You don't have to. But often you have most women choosing to create their value to a man that has already shown you his value. That inevitably, once you create your value, you end up dismissing what needs he can bring because you feel it's archaic for him to bring his needs, when in actuality you're just morphing yourself into the version of the man that you actually want to be with, but you don't know you're doing that. You just believe it's just you creating your value. Sorry, big tangent. Go ahead. My bad.
That's what she was saying. I think while I get why he said what he said, and while I get what she was saying,
Hmm.
I think that if you're talking about value, I mean, I think that kind of works hand in hand. I mean, and that's just what I think. I think that first of all, I don't think a lot of people know their value. I definitely don't know.
Oh yeah, I
I
definitely
don't.
believe that. No, a lot of people don't really
Yeah,
understand
they don't.
how to understand what their value is, let alone how to understand their value within the divine energy that they have the most of. You know, because people
Um,
want to get away from that. They the whole aspect of divine energies and everything. People just want to get away from because they want to dismiss the reality, the biological reality of that. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, and a lot of people tie, at least now, like if you're talking about now, like in the dating scene, they're tying value to your financial status also. It's
Well,
kind of
that's
like
that's 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 characteristic based. You know, oh, you
yeah,
got money and you have money, above a certain financial bracket or at a certain financial bracket, then that means that inevitably shows your value when in actuality it truly doesn't because, what are
yeah,
you actually doing with that money? You know, oftentimes we dismiss seeing character traits because we don't know how to look for them because we automatically just go for, the big three. I call the big three, what I'm saying, sex, money, and power. We look at those three immediately versus
yeah,
understanding, okay, what is the character of this human being? And they may not have good character, but they can make all the money in the world.
yeah.
You know? But go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I see that you're very passionate.
I'm a thinker. You
Very
know this,
passionate
Nat.
about this.
I'm a thinker. I'm a thinker. You know what I'm saying? But
I mean, I think that age does not help with figuring out what your value is either. And I say that because you could be 40, I mean, you could be 50 and still don't know, still don't know what your value is. Not only knowing what your value is, but knowing what value you can be to someone else. And I think that that's different. I think it's different understanding what your value can add or be to someone else versus what you think you're worth, right? Or what you think your value is. I think those are two different
let
things.
me let me ask you a question when it comes down to that. Do you think most people just go in a mindset of, well, someone has to bring a specific type of value to me to add to my value? Or do you think a good amount of people can understand being able to know what someone else needs when it comes down to how they use their value for their significant other? How they use it. Is it the former or the latter? What do you think?
I think it depends on the person. I mean, if you're talking about the first, I think that that should probably be, I would say, more ideal.
Okay.
The second, I think that that's what people sort of kind of uh, exercise, right? And I don't think that that's fair. Call me what you want to call me, y'all. I'm a Libra. I'm true to my sign. So I believe in fairness. I really do. And I don't think that you give people a fair shot or a fair chance if you if you know if I understand your question right. I
Yeah, yeah.
don't think that um I believe that you have to give a person a chance for them to show you, right? Not necessarily for you to
You can't tell.
you know on
I
your own.
here's my thing. I don't think that you can. I don't believe you should be telling someone else specifically how they should create their value. What I do
No, you should
believe,
not.
what I do believe is someone needs to understand how where their value lies, and they're able to effectively convey that to their significant other, and their significant other understands how that value can be used so they are useful or a utility within that relationship dynamic, whatever that union is. You know what I'm saying? Like, to give an example, if I need a woman in my life, if I need a woman in my life that understands the value of having children, I'm not going to be with a woman that does not want to have children. You see what I'm saying? Or if I need to be with a woman who understands the value of being of help and support to me when it comes down to something bigger or greater than myself. I'm not going to be with a woman who doesn't understand the nuances of being of service.
But I think that's also where the disconnect is. I think that some people who know what they want can't necessarily distinguish out those people who are able to mentally provide the things that they need. You see what I'm saying? Like, I think that that's a big gap too.
How often is
Um,
character talked about in modern society? Like building character, not just for men, but for women too. How often
it's
is that a
not. It's all
conversation?
about sex, power, and money. I mean, honestly, it's not. It,
There you go.
character is not talked about. It's not even considered, one of the qualifying, I guess, whatever factors in pursuing someone. Even when you go on a date, most times if you hear what someone said, what did you think about the person? Oh, I thought she was attractive, right? Or oh, I thought, he looked nice, he smelled nice. You don't really get a chance to hear their first impression is not, what mentally stimulated them during their conversation. It's
most
not
first
what,
impressions most first impressions are physically based. Like, we automatically, like, hey, let me look at this person, see if they're attractive enough for me to even be able to get in the sack with them. That's, I mean, that's
yeah.
natural to do, but then after that, after you realize, oh, okay, they're of a certain look that you are more than willing to be able to, clap cheeks with. What else? What else after that? You know?
Well, they're not forward thinking that. I think a lot of it is sort of impulsive when they make when some people make decisions on the partner they choose. Again, I think it's a choice. The partner that you choose for you and what you want long term. In some cases, it is impulsive because you are basing it off of physical attraction, right? And I can't say that I can't sit here and say that I'm not guilty of it too. Of course I'm guilty of it. I'm human. I've been on dates with men where I've seen them and I'm like, oh, he's attractive, but I never stopped there. That's the difference. I never stopped there. That was my initial, right, you know, impression, but I never said, oh, he's attractive. Let me go ahead and see, if I can test drive this thing and see what happens. No, you know, I wanted to kind of see where it went, right? You have to have a plan and a plan of action. What you want to do. You have to do this intentionally, and I think that that's where the dis. I think that that's where things are going wrong. Character is not being. It's just not in conversation. It's not even being considered. Even when I watch that show, and I watch it, y'all, because I'm single, so I watch it, and I want to not because I'm looking for somebody, but because I want to know what's out there, right? And a lot of single people do want to know, hey, what's out there? Is it even worth getting out there and trying again? Should I just take this time and work on myself? That sort of thing, right? And then not only that, what I found, if we're talking about, I think to be valued by someone else, it has to be paired with selflessness. And I say that because I don't think that you can be of value to anyone if you are all about self. It's just, you know, prime example, a lot of women on this show, sorry y'all, this is not about the Kardashian show, but it's making me think of some of the things that
Go ahead.
came up, that a lot of things that women don't think about, which had me think about some things.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that came up was that one of the questions Kendra G asked women or and men on the show is, what is it that you need from 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 a man, right? What I liked about it is that the women will come in there and they'll say whatever they need. She had a friend come on there and he made a great point, and he said he's been married for 40 something years, and he said I think a lot of the times it's simple and people are trying to scratch right underneath the surface when it's right there in front of them. He said realistically, he said I don't think that women should, he said that men want to be needed, right? Which I agree. He also said that that instead of, the women telling, what they need, they should listen to what the man to what the man needs. And I really like that point because I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Not that I never consider what a man needs. Of course I have to, but I don't think it's the first thing in mind when you ask someone, especially a woman who's dating or who wants to get out there and date, what is, what do you, I just don't think that that's considered. That is a value. That's a value, right? And
Hmm.
I don't think that that's being talked about. If you're talking about what I need, if I'm telling you, look, I need this, I need him to make this amount of money. And this is stuff that I'm hearing. This is not like made up stuff. I need him to be 6 feet tall, dark, whatever your needs are. I need him to be emotionally available, whatever that is. While I think that they're all good, fine, and well, I think that it's also being a little selfish, right? And to be in a relationship with someone, you have to consider what the other person needs.
I think I
And
think
you
I
can add value to their life, and then
I
vice
think
versa.
when people immediately lead with characteristics that technically are built out of character, but they don't ask certain questions that can prompt someone showing them their character, which
Yeah,
inevitably will help them to better understand the characteristics that they actually can bring to the table. That's when they're being just inherently selfish. They're just being selfish. When they try to understand character traits, like selflessness, like humility, you know, uh, being caring, having a caring mindset, a caring
being
heart.
empathetic. I I
Yeah,
think empathizing with someone is a really big one that a lot of people miss, men and women,
yeah,
personally.
yeah. I agree. I agree.
And I think that, yeah, I mean, I think that, that's one too. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot of characteristics that I don't think people even, like they just kind of skip over them and pass over them. But I think it has a lot to do with what value you can be or can add to someone else's life. Because let's just be real about it. I think at this point, at least for the 30 and over crowd, I'm going to put an age on it. Because, I mean, honestly, if you're under 30, you probably don't know what you need. You probably don't know what you want
I think that's
because
one
you're
of the
still trying to
biggest
figure it out.
problems. I think that's one of the biggest problems because you have too many younger, adults, within their 20s that squander off their 20s as if they're going to live forever. And
Yeah, because they're not,
that is not true. And they don't treat, how can I put this? If you had more so ones within their 20s were treating their 20s as if they were their 30s, then I would think you would have a lot more people that would not die alone.
absolutely not even dying alone. You would have them. I'll take it a step further by, we had, a meeting with a, a, a benefit specialist at
Mm-hmm.
my job,
Yeah.
you know and it was optional, so this is not like a mandated meeting that you have to have, but it's like if you want to meet with this benefit specialist and discuss your retirement plans,
Mm-hmm.
schedule and appointment, who was in that appointment? Okay, everybody, for the most part, those who are 40 and up, right? I
Okay.
think that within itself is also, I mean, it kind of lends to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Then, that younger crowd is not thinking as if, what's going to happen when I retire? you know,
I think
what do I
also,
want? How do I want things to kind of pan out? So when you think about dying alone, they're not thinking about that because they're young, and so they have forever.
that's
Okay,
that's
and
a I think that's a huge misconception. Like, how can I say
with
this?
that's why I did that.
Oh yeah, yeah. You have you have most 20-year olds that are men that will just see women as just a utility. Just you know, how can I put this? A kielbasa, throbbing tool. That's it. And then you have a
Yeah,
good amount of women that are in their 20s. They're pushed to try to have this level of competitiveness with men that is similar to the traits that they would want to look in as far as a man, but they honestly have a mindset of believing they will never be able to gain these traits from a man, especially within the scope of monogamy. So, what they do is they end up becoming the man they want to be, and that cuts them out from being able to have a suitable mate because still men want what they want. And often it is, and I believe, and I'm gonna just put this out there, I believe feminism has fucked up the game. Often is, well, I'm this type of woman, you should be accepting me for the type of woman that I am. And then you got these men who are looking at these women and they're like, but you have all the value that you need for yourself. Why what purpose would I even have in your life if you have all the value that you need for yourself? Which is translation for you're the guy that you want to be with. You're that man. I don't want to be with a man as a man. So I'm going to go ahead and try to find a woman that can give me the needs that I need versus trying to force myself to be with someone that in her back of her mind already has a sense of apprehensive behavior as far as even wanting to go for a man based on how she maneuvers, let alone have a mindset of seeing the value in a man that inevitably she doesn't want because she feels like she has to depict what she actually wants to go for in the scope of hypergamy. So it's like a continuous. I think most are in a continuous cycle of like the underpinning low frequency of just going for what they believe is necessary, and then once they hit their 30s, it's like, well, now you've had that mindset, you're in that routine, right? You don't know how to step out of it, and you think immediately within one interaction with that man that you believe you deserve or that woman you believe you deserve, automatically you'll just turn it on. Doesn't work that way because people in a routine often just go with their routine, not unless they are actively making decisions, life decisions that push them to change their behavior.
yeah,
And if they're not doing that, then it could be within one or two categories. You die alone or you die sooner than later. Because also the stress in which you are trying to attain certain things in life, especially if you're taking the easy route majority of the time or even the harder route majority of the time. You know, maybe that's not necessarily the things that you should be doing. You know, are you? Past week, I asked a friend of mine that I've been knowing, for years. That at one time we worked together, and I asked her just baseline question, And a lot of women will say that I should not ask any woman this question, especially with, me being, a married man myself. Period. I should never be asking this woman, this question. Period. Where my whole thing is, fuck that. You know what I'm saying? That's my friend. You know what I'm saying? I asked her, "Are you happy?" I asked her legitimately, "Are you happy?" And she was like, "Well, why are you asking me that?" I said, "Because, over the course of time, you have legitimately told me certain things that have frustrated you, pissed you off, all these other things." And I'm like, "Okay, I can tell your stress level has increased because of what you've been telling me. And I know that's not contributing to your happiness. So, are you happy?" You know? And, she goes into details about her being happy in certain ways but not happy in others. And it seems as though the larger percentage is her not being happy in those other things. And then I will ask her, well, what are you doing to actively try to modify that, or to go to something different than what you've been used to? What are you doing to actively push yourself to now understand how to be happy within that dynamic of those other things? And it seems like she's not necessarily doing anything about it, but more so complaining about it. You know, I think that's one of the things that I'll just say. I can't stand when people period, they'll complain about something, but they don't do anything to create a solution for it, and they just perpetually complain about that thing. It pisses me off. My thing is like, and I would even say this, don't fucking talk to me, because the mindset that I have, I know for me, the mindset I have in most cases is, when you continue to complain about something, you're just relishing in not wanting to do something about it, because now you're just in a state of chaos. You like the chaos you're going through, and you don't create a solution for it. If you don't have a solution for it, you like chaos. You know? So you want the stress. You want to be frustrated. You want to take off minutes, weeks, months, years off of your life. For what? For what? Just because you enjoy being in a perpetual cycle of stress and anxiety? Or you legitimately may not know how to get out of the state of being unhappy, whatever that catalyst is that is making you unhappy. What do you think?
I don't think that anyone becomes complacent with, a situation where they're not happy. So I'll say that. I don't know why there is no self motivation to do different, to get different results, to change. But that's a whole nother episode. But but I don't think it's ever like I want to be. No, it's not that you want to be. Um, but I do agree with, if you're in that constant state of being unhappy about something, or not being pleased with something, or not being satisfied with something, then you should take whatever necessary steps you need to take to make the, that change, or to at least start that process. So I believe in that. Um, and that's with anything. I mean, that's with anything in life. I mean, you're not gonna get any thing different if you don't do something different, right? And
Right.
that's kind of cliche, but it's one of the truest cliche statements out there. I mean, if you continue to, do the same thing, you're gonna get the same results. If you continue eating, fruit every day, you're gonna shit fruit at night every
The
day.
definition, the
You know what I
definition of
mean?
insanity. The definition of insanity is
So
doing the same thing over and over and again, expecting a different result when you're doing the same shit over and over and over again. You know,
Yeah.
and I'm saying that because I believe everybody has to understand they have more power in taking accountability of their actions than what they think they do. You know, they have more ability to be able to take accountability over their actions and as far as the responsibility they have in reference to what they're doing in their life. You know,
I think that they always have I mean, I think they
they
always
always
are
have
accountable.
responsibility, but
Mhm.
oftentimes they don't hold themselves accountable
Right.
for the decisions that they have made. You know,
Right. Yeah.
it often, most people, put it in this perspective, most people often have a victim mentality. You know, they don't self reflect to be like, oh, this thing I did at this moment in this situation, I hold myself accountable for that thing, which could have contributed to a negative result. You know, could have contributed to that. But it's easier to just place blame on someone else or another thing. So I don't have to self reflect and really delve into the cognitive dissonance of being like, yeah, I fucked up. My bad. You know? And I think that's a part of the dynamic of when people end up dying alone, they are so what's the term? What's the word? I think we went over the word before, solipsistic. They are so solipsistic, they have no concept of thinking outside of themselves and being able to understand other things from a different perspective. That
Yeah.
when it's too late, oh, they're on their deathbed about to, take their final breath. And hopefully it doesn't get to that, but then you have a lot of people that legitimately happens. It legitimately happens. It does. You know?
So yeah. So I would say, in terms of dying alone, I think that this is something that a lot of, specifically, I'm just talking about, is something that specifically single people um is threatened by. You know, what?
Okay.
And I would say that because if you're single, you don't have anything, right? Like, well, you probably have family, as far as your parents, your siblings, things like that, but you have not created or built a family for yourself. So you don't have, you may not have a wife or a husband or kids and so forth, and those kids had kids. It's just you. So it is a constant, you being single, and as you know, the older you get is a constant reminder of, oh shit, like now I'm in my 40s and 50s and I still ain't got nobody to, to kind of, even to spend time with, y'all. I'm going to die alone. I don't want to die alone. But here's reality, is that you could potentially die alone because you didn't take the time in your younger years to kind of build those healthy relationships, figure out how to not even, I mean, I would say healthy, and how to sustain them, right? Because it's different. Like, you can build something, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to stand forever. Like, it takes work to like make it stick, right?
It takes work to be in a routine that maintains a healthy dynamic. No matter if it's on the individual or if it's on the collective. It takes
Yeah.
it takes I'll put it like this. It takes legitimately 3 solid months of consistent action in a certain behavior for people to change a behavior.
Yeah.
3 solid months. 3 months. And my whole thing is that 3 month investment within somebody's life to be able to change a behavior that, one, doesn't put them in a position where they end up dying alone, let alone two, doesn't put them in a position where they die sooner rather than later. I think it's worth it. It's a great investment you're putting in your life. You're doing for yourself. Not only for yourself, but of course the people that care about you. You know what I'm saying? Because we
Yeah.
all we all have family. If we didn't, none of us would fucking exist. We
Right.
all have family. So wouldn't you want to do the necessary things to be able to, for one, add more years to your life, and two, understand the healthy dynamic of being able to bond and complement, be a complement with other human beings. Complement one another, which helps y'all be able to build within the scope of collectivism. Wouldn't
Yeah.
that be achievable goals? Or our achievable goals is making it on your own, being within a certain financial bracket that's, six figures, which is ideal, you know, or having, as many degrees as you possibly can. Having that particular career that, people can say, oh, he's doing it or she's really doing it. You know, if you are doing these things on your own, how is your work contributing to the collective as far as sustaining other human beings? You know, or is it that you just need to individually do these things on your own and you find no value in having your own specific family, and your family is the dynamic in which you actually have your profession, whatever it is? I think also a lot of things boil down to purpose, how you manifest your purpose in existence. Either your purpose is going to tie to people, or your purpose is going to tie to a profession. Either one, people or a profession. I think when that happens, whichever one you pick, the opposite or the other one becomes number two. If you pick your profession as number one, number two is people. If you pick people as your number one, your profession becomes number two.
And let me just chime in. If you're talking about in modern society, profession is trumping a lot of stuff, right? Profession is trumping relationships, it's trumping family. I mean, just on all levels, it's trumping friendships. I mean, people are more, I guess, are tending to be more career driven. Um, and it's nothing wrong with wanting a career and wanting to be successful and and whatever your definition is of becoming or being successful is. But I don't think it should just, kind of just overpower everything, or not overpower but overshadow everything else that's important.
Hmm.
And I think that's an issue that some people are not talking about. And me listening again to that show, a lot of these women are in these, for the most part, are in these, good, decent to high paying positions. Everybody isn't in a high paying position, but those who are, and who are looking for love, I guess, or whatever, they're particularly older women for the most part. You know why? In their younger years, they were thinking about that. And now they're in a position where they're like, okay, now I'm established. Now I have this. But in reality, is that if maybe if you had given it a chance in your younger years, you probably would have found that maybe, you could have worked to get to where you are now with the other person rather than doing it all yourself.
I
Um,
would even go as far as saying this: the value in which you see yourself right now, with getting to a certain level as you have gotten older, you dismiss the value in which potential partners needed to gain from you for you to be valuable to them. And with
yeah,
that dismissal, doesn't necessarily mean because you have gotten older and are at a certain level that inevitably you still should be getting the pick of the litter as if you were back in your 20s.
Yeah.
And that is happening more often than not. And I believe it's happening more often than not based on a lot of delusion and based on a lot of men not understanding who women are and women not understanding who men are. Or for that matter, not just who, but what. Because what is on a biological level. What men are and what women are. Where, and we'll do it in another episode, the dynamics in which if you understand how to complement one another, then you know the old saying of opposites attract is complete bullshit. Opposites never attract. Complements do. Complements do. And when you understand how to complement one another, then you better understand who is good at what, who is not good at what, and how y'all build together when it comes down to filling in certain gaps, and also with the 100% absolutism that you have in coming together, you know, no matter what y'all go through, it's about the process of building, about the process of progression, about the process of growth. Because both of y'all see each other as one and the same. No one is different. Well, both of y'all are different, but no one is seen as I'm better than you because of A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Or I'm of a certain level than you are. Why would I deal with you? Nah. Now that goes into true narcissism. That goes into the dynamics of seeing human beings as disposable. You're not specifically doing this. You are of no use. Get the fuck out of my face.
It's a lot of disposable dating going on right now.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah.
When I was dating, I dealt with it.
It's like Polaroids. Remember the Polaroids?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
You take a picture, it comes out, you throw it away.
Throw it away.
Take a new picture.
Yeah.
It's like it should be called Polaroid dating. Something like that. Because it is a lot of this. But here's the good part is that Cardi B has a line in one of her songs where she's like,
"Oh boy,
I like texts from my exes when they want a second chance." Let me tell you something. When she said that line, I was like, come on, Cardi. I like Cardi B, but and if you listen to some, anyway, I'll just say that line in particular makes me think about if you're disposing people in relationships or in the dating part, because dating is not a relationship. So don't get that confused. If you're dating someone or dating multiple people, you're not really in relationship with them. You're probably interacting with them.
You got a lot of people out there. You got a lot of people out there that believe dating is a relationship.
Yeah. There is no. They don't understand what the difference is.
There is a difference. There's a difference. There's a difference between dating, courting, and a relationship. Such as dating, courting, a relationship, and marriage. And a lot of people, I'll put it like this. There was no such concept as dating and relationships before 1910. Everything was courting and then you got married.
Right. Well, that's what courtship, was.
Right. The modified versions that we have now is relationships essentially is courting. But you have a lot of people that are serial daters and also will be in consistent relationships because they don't find any value in getting married for various reasons.
And that's also why you find people in multiple relationships. Just say that you have people who are not ready to commit. Not Let me just say this. I don't It's not that I don't believe that people are not ready to commit. What I have learned since I've gotten older is that like like I said, it is a choice. I don't think it's that if you know that you're not ready to commit, you shouldn't be dating. And that's what I believe. Don't date. If you're not ready, don't date. Because then you're dating with no purpose. I mean, what are you dating for if you're not in a position, if you feel like you don't want to do that? But anyway, what I was going to say is that, oh my God, I forgot my main point. I forgot my main point. I had a good point, y'all. Forgot it. Dang. Dang. Okay, never mind. It'll come back to me. But I was yeah, I don't think that you should oh, if you're in multiple relationships, you cannot, I don't think that you can really give um each person a fair chance, right? Now, dating, you're dating. You're not in relationship with that person, so you're not, there is no commitment there, there is no obligation there's none of that there.
Yeah.
um Relationship is different, and I think that some people are way in over their head when it comes to dating. Like, you're dating too many people. I'm just gonna say that. And something I was gonna say about this disposal. I'm sorry, now I remember,
Yeah.
from Cardi B's line. If you dispose of people and you find somebody else, and this may go back to the paradox of choice. I think if you can't figure out what you want out of this pool of people that you then took out time with to go date and get to know and things like that, and you choose somebody completely separate that's not even in that pool, just saying, I think that that just doesn't make any sense. But what I like about, because what could end up happening is that you could find that this relationship over here that you chose may not be in your best interest or in their best interest, right? So it may not work out. And then you end up going back to the pool. And instead of going back to the whole pool, let's say you choose about two or three, right?
Mm.
So now you have two or three people. It makes it a little easier to kind of choose, or not choose, but it makes the the decision less stressful.
Mm.
Okay, so that's what I think. And when I heard, so I think, and depending on if they're still available, you could have totally missed your opportunity of being with whoever you were supposed to be with, simply because you couldn't make up your mind. Because you had too much going on, you had too many people to focus. You can't focus on everything at one time. But when I heard the line from Cardi B's thing, it made me kind of think about that, because why are you? Let me just say this: I was once in a relationship, and one of the ar- it wasn't an argument. I don't believe in arguing in relationships. That's just my personal thing. I feel like if I have to argue with you, then it just can't work. And I truly mean that.
Do
If
you
we
believe
have to
in?
argue or raise our voice,
Do
it's
you
just
believe
not going to work.
having a discussion, or talking
Yeah,
about, constructively talking about a topic?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can
Okay.
talk. We can disagree the entire conversation, but we cannot argue it. Okay. Um, I'm like, if and that's just my thing. Even in my last relationship, we never argued, right? Or if I ever feel like I have to come out of character because I can't. I mean, everybody can, right? Then this is not healthy. I have to come out of character to have this conversation with you. I should never ever have to feel like I have to do that to get my point across, or for you to just hear what I'm saying.
Let me ask
So
another
I'll
question.
say,
Let me ask another question real quick. Do you feel like someone coming out of their character is them being forced into disrespecting their partner?
I mm,
Like, when you come out of character, that inevitably you're not in the place mindset wise to
No,
have respect for your significant other.
exactly,
You see what I'm saying? You're
exactly.
not you're not in that mindset. You're more so in defense mode. It's fighting time. You know what I'm saying? Verbally, more so.
Yeah,
It's fighting time where that doesn't promote an environment for respect.
yeah. No, no, no. I mean, at that point, all gloves are off. Like we're going at it, or better yet, I'm going at it at you.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
Right.
But I was gonna say one of the things that we borderline almost argued about, right, was a discussion that we had about an ex. And the reason for this conversation was that he had um, the number of his ex still in his phone. So here was the conversation. What I said to him, I said, I don't have a problem with you talking to your ex. Believe it or not, I'm not that type of a female, y'all. A lot of stuff just don't bother me. I have an issue with dishonesty.
Right.
Okay, I
Right.
have an issue with you not being transparent.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been with this person for 6, 7 plus years, it would be unrealistic for me to expect for you to just cut all ties. No, I don't expect that. She's probably going to be around and be your friend, but I do expect boundaries to be set in place. And if you can't respect that, then you don't have any respect for our relationship, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was my coming, but the argument what almost came about was when he did not understand that his responses were not honest, and so he would say, "Well, we don't still talk," and I would say, "Well, why do you think? I mean, so then why do you still have the phone number?" And his response was, "Well, it's just in my phone." Let me just stop right here. Let me just say this. I said to him, I said, "No, you don't talk because she probably hasn't reached out to you or you haven't reached out to her, but she is accessible. You haven't blocked that number. You haven't deleted that number. If she wants to reach out, she can reach out,
Yeah.
right?"
The
So that was
access
the
is
whole
still
thing.
there.
Yes.
Doesn't
Yes. So
necessarily
that was the whole
mean.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah. And so going back to what Cardi B said, why should your ex be able to text? Why should somebody be able to text you if you have mentally removed this person, or if you're trying to make a change and this person, was the result of you needing to make that change? Why is this person still accessible to? Why, and that's accountability.
Mm.
I can only, reach you if you make it me reachable. That's and that's how I feel about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that that's another thing why you have relationships where communication is not open. Where as I try to create a very safe emotional space, a safe communicative space for us to actually, openly talk about it. Hey, are you going to still be friends with her? Hey, are you still going to sleep with her? Hey, just let me know what's going on so I can know how to move, right?
Yeah.
I don't think those conversations are being had openly, and I don't know why. I don't I just don't know why. But and I think a lot of it is, again, people may be afraid to be alone. And let me just say, there is a difference of being. I think that there's a difference between dying alone. What was the other one? Dying alone.
Dying sooner rather than later.
Dying sooner rather than later, and dying lonely. I think that those are three different things. I think that you can be lonely. Um,
Here's the
you,
thing, and I'll say this, when it comes down to the two, like when it comes down to dying lonely versus dying alone, in my personal opinion, the difference between those two is dying lonely is legitimately you did not have a leg up when it came down to the sexual marketplace as far as doing what you needed to do to be able to be of a certain value so you can have some type of monogamous dynamic with another human being. So there's certain things that were not of your control. However, Dying alone, you had a stern commitment to
Yeah.
not growing in certain ways that made you of a more of someone that could benefit from your sexual marketplace value. Like you legitimately was just like, you know what, fuck it. I don't give a fuck about these things. I'm gonna just do that. And that is what made you perpetually alone. Whatever that is. That
Yeah.
thing, those things, whatever the list is. Because you didn't know who your target was. And you didn't care. It wasn't about your target. It was about what you wanted. Going back
Yeah.
to the concept of selfishness.
Selfish. Yeah.
You know, where the target, if you don't know your target and you don't understand, I'll put it like this: you have no inkling of the joy of understanding what your target needs and wants, the joy behind it, and that joy ties back to the concept of selflessness. If you don't understand your target, what makes you think you're going to hit the shot? You don't even understand what a target is. You don't even understand proper marksmanship to be able to pinpoint where your round is going, where your arrow is going, where your sights are going. You don't know because you never took the time out to, or you were given one aspect of being able to see your target, and it was good foundational aspect to be able to learn, and you made the choice to say a derivative of fuck that, I'ma just do this. That's what I'm talking about when it comes down to people dying alone. Their commitment. Their commitment to not understanding a human
Yeah.
being that is not necessarily of them, but is a complement of them.
Yeah. No, no, I agree. And I think oftentimes than not, people feel the need to have a safety net. You know what I mean? Like they want to have a safety net. Um, just in case this doesn't work out, just in case something goes wrong, I have, plan A and I'm sorry, plan B and plan
I
C.
think it's okay to have different plans, but just not in the scope of relationship dynamics.
Right, right. That's what I'm
I
talking
don't
about.
agree with people do that. Like to give an example, the whole concept of, well, a woman, modern women, I'll put it in this perspective because most people know about this. Modern women needing to have a job, but then also needing to be with, a man when it comes down to a healthy relationship, right?
Mhm.
Needing both. But then more so what's put at the forefront is having the job is because currency is going to help take care of yourself.
Yeah,
But you don't take the initiative to understand better what character traits you need to see in a man for that man to be a good candidate for marriage to you, you know? And let's be real about it. It's not to shit on women, but this is just reality. Most of the women this day and age, 80% of the women that are having sex with the 20% of men that are actually able to have sex with women.
what do you mean physically?
Yes, 80% because of hypergamy. Because most women, heterosexual dynamic, most women don't go for average men. They want to
Oh,
go for men that are of higher status. You see what I'm saying? Where,
yeah. Mhm.
one particular question that I thought was very valid that somebody, brought up was, okay, if women are the prize, why do women majority of the time date up?
Wait, say it again. If women are the
If
prize, why do they
women
date
are
other?
the prize, why do women majority of the time date up because of hypergamy.
Oh, date up. Okay.
Date up. Because most women will not date down. If that's the case, where if you have majority of women dating up, then 80% of women in most cases are having sex with that to 10 to 20% of men that in most cases are really getting all the women to be able to have sex with, majority of women to be able to have sex with, but those men may not have good character traits and treating these women as expendable. And then those women have a mindset of, well, all men are trash. All men are this, all men are that. You know, majority of men cheat anyway. When in actuality, 1 out of 3 men have not had sex in a year, let alone have had sex at all. Only 60% of men maybe have had sex, let alone have had sex within the past year.
Yeah.
So we have to literally explore all the dynamics in which, what are you doing? You know, and that's just one aspect. What are you doing to not die sooner than later? What are you doing not to die alone? And what are you doing to not die lonely? And I would even add the third one. Because also you have to really have a sense of accountability on the things that probably are making you lonely, so you just don't delve into switching that word lonely to being alone because of the commitment of just exuding certain behaviors that is not healthy in the first place. You know, the difference between lonely and alone is based on intent. What is your intent in mind? If there's certain things that you know that you're doing that's kind of fucked up to do and it's not making you attractive, stop doing that shit and do the opposite of that in most cases, or a different version of it that makes you more attractive. But then also there are a few other things when it comes down to dying sooner rather than later, where we have to talk about not only in the concept of stress, but we also have to talk about how we're treating our bodies, you know, as human beings, how we're treating our bodies. We also have to talk about the details in which um, aspects in which we're putting ourselves in danger, you know, when we are around, especially when it comes down to profession, you know, like there are other dynamics in which we definitely need to talk about. But I mean, of course, this podcast is going to be around for a while, so you know we'll eventually get to it. So all I'm saying is like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. You got anything else on this?
No, no, I think it's no, I think I've said everything I need to say on this. I mean, um dying sooner rather than later. I mean, it sounds like if it's not a medical condition that's keeping you um from, dying, I think that if it's related, if it's too much going on, um, get rid of it. I don't know what to say. I mean, I just think it's some people will probably say that's easier said than done. Okay, well, keep living with it and see what happens,
The people
right?
that
It's gonna
say
eat away at you.
the people that
Um,
say it's easier said than done, often that's an excuse to not actually do the self-reflection to make a change when it comes down to their behavior right now. Right now, right now. Not tomorrow, not 2 days from now, not a week from now, not a couple of months from now. No. Right now. Start the process of changing the behavior. And then also when it comes down to medical conditions, people can put themselves in certain medical conditions based on what they end up doing in their life. and then they end up being in that medical condition, and they're just like, oh well, oh woe is me. I'm gonna just go ahead and stay in this because this is what I know. Okay, die sooner.
And I just want to put emphasis on it's not always, I mean, it doesn't always have to do with like a romantic relationship. Kids can stress you out. I've seen it where mothers, and particularly, I mean, specifically where sons got into some mess or their daughters they got into some mess, and now the parent is stressed out because they feel they're stressing themselves out. Let me just say, they're stressing themselves out because they want to not coddle, but they want to protect, right? Their kids, but I don't think that they're necessarily protecting them. Like, for example, I knew somebody who her son got arrested for something he did stupid. It wasn't like he was, he got locked up on a Friday and she called me because she wanted to bail him out and she didn't have the money. So
Notice
she called to ask me for the bail money. And I told her no. I told her no. And she was bothered that I told her no about it. And I said, and I said to her, I said, why are you stressing out? I mean, what are you stressing out for? Did you go do?
why does she feel that she
She
has to
wanted to
ask you?
rescue him. She
Why
wanted
does
to
she
get him
feel
out
that
of
she
the
has to
situation.
ask you to reward her for her probably, and you may not know because she probably doesn't tell you the nuances in which she has raised her children. For her, you're giving her money for the way in which she exuded her own parenting style.
Well, you know what? I would not.
Um,
I didn't cast blame on a parenting style. I just wanted her to not stress out over something he did
and
that
that's
wasn't to
fair.
him.
That's
You
fair
know.
to not.
So that's what I did, and I did not want because I told her I said I would do the same if it was my kids. I said I'm not. Let me tell you something. If I'm blessed to have children, I'm gonna raise them to the best of my ability. Hopefully, I'm married and we can have a family together where it's two parents in the household. But if something happens, let's say the same thing happens, he or she will be there. If the evidence proves that for him to be guilty, he is going to be there until Monday. I'm not getting up out my bed.
Here,
I'm not doing
here's
it.
here's one of the biggest things. If we had more balance in reference to homes that had both parents in them, then there wouldn't be as much of a factor. I'm gonna just say this, and a lot of people will, anecdotally will say, "Well, we don't know if that will happen, but we don't know if it would work because we have majority of homes being single parented now because of the incentive in which the single parented home has been in existence for the longest. We don't even have incentives of us even being together, in the scope of longevity anymore because there are incentives behind it. You know, divorce is incentivized. Anybody can argue with me about that, and I will do yourself the favor. Don't argue with me on that. And that's me tooting my own horn. If you want to do it, go ahead, argue with me about it. But divorce is incentivized. This is just a fact. Alimony, you know what I'm
I was say
saying?
alimony,
Child support,
spousal support.
spousal support, which is essentially alimony.
Right? Yeah, 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 yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's incentivized in various ways that it's a business. This is why most people are not getting married. This is why, fuck it, I'll say it. You have a good amount of men that, have no mindset on marriage because they believe it's just a, bad deal. It's just a bad deal.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You have a good amount of men who may want to to to, to make that commitment, but when you think about divorce, what's that old song? It's cheaper to keep her. It's cheaper to keep her. I mean, And
Facts.
I've never been married, but I'm just saying that.
I mean, my thing is, I'm speaking on the reality of how things are deliberately set up against the dynamic in which two people coming together on one accord, being able to love one another, but also understand the reality of the differences between the two of them, but still are able to come together in the scope of complementarity. So we can get into
Some
that.
people don't know. Yeah, I was going to say when it comes to complementarity, some people don't. I mean, if you take away the whole relationship aspect of it, some people don't know what complements their life outside just their regular life. I mean, it's something that I think it's not hard.
The
It's
better
just
the better someone is able to build their character traits over time and understand that as a life creed, the better they are to avoid dying alone, dying lonely, or dying sooner rather than later. Because if you have the life creed, then you're going to do certain things that really reinforces your value to where you're doing everything in your power to be an asset to yourself, but also an asset to others, but also project that your life is valuable. It is
yeah,
not to be squandered or purchased frivolously.
yeah,
That's why you got a lot of cats out here that are more than willing for higher dollar amounts to do anything and everything in their lives, when in actuality it just shows the fact that they don't have character. They're more so just for the dollar. They're more so just for aspects of power that are built out of corruption.
yeah.
So, all right, I'm done with this topic. You done that?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. Real Raw Exchange Podcast. Y'all take it easy. Have a wonderful week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.